Hey everyone, this is Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about A/B split testing. So you'll be able to find out where the best places are to start A/B testing, the top mistakes Amazon sellers are making, and is there potential with Amazon's managing your experiments? All right. So you are watching Lunch with Norm, the Amazon FBA and e-commerce podcast. Kelsey, hit that button.
Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm.
All right, things might look a little bit different here today. I think I got a virus on my laptop. I don't know what the heck it's doing. I'm not taking any chances, so I'm sitting in my office. So today we're going to be talking about the top mistakes for Amazon A/B split testing. Our guest is the industry liaison for PickFu. He's the previous owner of Virtuous Graphics, a marketing agency for copywriting, graphic design, photography, videography to Amazon sellers. He's even worked at Amazon for the early part of his career. So, of course, I am talking about a returning guest, Anthony Cofrancesco. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor. Meet Sellerize, our favorite suite of tools for Amazon sellers. Leverage 19 innovative tools to dominate your competition on Amazon. Get your customer reviews, rank higher, track and analyze profit in real time. Sellerize is what you need to make data-driven decisions and give your business a boost. Get a free month trial by signing up with a coupon, Beard Nation. Follow the link in this episode's description and get started now. Okay, where is the boy child?
Hello, happy Friday. How are you doing?
I'm freaking out again. 2 episodes in a row, and I'm in the fetal position 5 minutes before it starts.
See, we're just going to do this so much that you're just going to be used to it. It's going to be fine. We're good to go. Everyone's happy. We've got Manny smiling in the comments. Hey, Manny, how are you? Welcome, DK, as well. We've got Rad, Jessica Rabbit, Nathan. It's the smart ones got into Amazon services. That's great. So if you're new to the show, you can smash those like buttons, give us those thumbs up. If you know anyone that's interested in PickFu or split testing, optimizing their listings, you can share this episode out. Welcome, Nathan Sargent, too. It's good to see you again. And if you haven't watched the podcast before, you can head over to our Facebook group. That's Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA, and e-commerce collective. That's where all the fun stuff happens. That's where you can share your memes of us, questions, tips, anything you have related to Amazon FBA we want to talk about, discuss, and we do little giveaways as well, which I should also mention, we have a giveaway today, so stick around for more information on that. We also have some giveaways for everyone too, so yeah, stick around. I'm going to be talking about that later. You'll see me in the comment sections with all the information about that. And we can get started.
Okay, I'm going to get started. Thank you very
Okay.
much, Kelsey, for that excellent introduction to the podcast.
I do what I can.
See, some people say I don't give you enough credit. I'm giving you credit right now.
I'm going to write that down.
Can you feel that virtual love going out?
It's coming strong through here.
Is it? Okay, then get off the screen.
All
okay,
right.
So if you have any questions, throw them over in the comments section. I think we can get right to it right now. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, enjoy the show. Welcome, Anthony. Where are you?
Hey, what's up, Norm? Thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here.
Hey, it's awesome. We bump into each other all over the world. You know, it's really kind of crazy. The Amazon community is such a small community, and it's everywhere. Like I think we've met in London, we've met in Vegas. We meet everywhere, which is really cool, including a ship the other day. That was really great. The online sellers cruise with Carlos.
Heck yeah, that was super fun.
That's one of the great things about networking and just building up a group of not just people that are on the service side, but just everybody. There's so many people. Just imagine on that cruise, there was Unfortunately, there was a snowstorm just before it got going. A bunch of people couldn't make it, but there was a ton of sellers on there, and just being able to rub shoulders and, just meeting new people. It's really great. I love that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's super cool too because everyone comes from such a different background. And so I was talking to someone that was selling something. I won't say what the product was, but it's a live product. And we're always talking about, these private label products, but it expands so far beyond that, right? What you're selling on FBA. And it's always cool to hear people selling the most random things, but have big businesses that they've built around it.
I won't say the company, but this is, I got my wrong glasses on. Just a sec. I got to put my cool glasses on, which you'll never know, but I'll be able to see you. There we go. Now I can see you. I got a call from somebody who wanted me to check out his product, and he wanted to see if, we could do anything. You know what it was? And he was selling a gazillion of them. It was silicone spatulas.
Heck yeah.
And they were high-end silicone spatulas. So if you're new to this, when Amazing Selling Machine came out, they were probably the first person to really go after Amazon. Silicone spatulas was the thing that they used. They just made up this thing, silicone spatulas. So the market got saturated like within a month, and it's really funny to see somebody dominating that. And there is a bit of a segue here because to do that, to get that perceived value, you'd have to do some split testing, right? I mean, it is all about split testing, and you could never dominate a market. Well, there are different ways, but split testing is probably one of the most important things outside of image and copy. So let's talk a bit about split testing. We all know like what PickFu does. I love PickFu. I promote PickFu. So let's talk about split testing. Why is it so important?
So the first thing that I want to talk about is there's live split testing, and then there's the split testing that you do with PickFu, right? Live split testing is like you've got a website and you actually want to change the color of the button. You already have traffic going to the site and you want to see like, okay, does the orange button get more clicks than the blue button, right? Same thing if you're live split testing on your Amazon listing, right? Maybe you're testing your main image, you're testing your A+ content, but you've got the product up and it's live. What PickFu is, you're split testing, but you're split testing off the platform. And because you're using their own panel, you don't actually have to have anything, you can just do it there at that moment in time. And so like the real basis in my mind of split testing, whether you're doing live split testing or split testing with PickFu, it's going with the concept that you just really never know at the end of the day what's going to be a better option, whether it's an option for a main image, for product packaging. Like we're selling these products, a lot of the times we're selling into categories that are not representative of ourselves, right? Sometimes it's the exact opposite of who we are. And so when we're making decisions on our brand or on our creative, split testing is a really helpful tool to go in and admit, I don't necessarily know what's going to work, but I'm going to test some different things and I'm going to try to find out what's going to work.
Over the years, I think I know what I like. I think I know what people like. And I'll throw up a couple of images. And it might be different camera angles. It might be a different lens. It might be a bunch of different things. And I'll look at it and I'll go, yeah, this is the best. And yet I'll have, 60% saying, no way, use this other image or higher, and you find out that it's not necessarily what you like. It's what your demographic likes. And I mean, it has, I can't say it saved me a few times, but it has given me a different outlook on how important, split testing is. And if you're not using it, if you're trying to save a couple bucks, you're losing a couple bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as well too, like we're going to probably talk a little bit about the sourcing trip to Mexico in a while. Like just imagine if you've ever been in a position where you're launching a product and it might be a low MOQ, like 500 or 1,000 units. But a lot of sellers, what they do is they do their product research and they've got all the technical data points for launching a product. But then they're going to go spend all this money on inventory, all this money on freight, getting this into Amazon. And they haven't done any kind of validation in advance of, do people actually like the product that I'm selling, or is this brand packaged in a way that's convincing, right? And so the way that I look at it is, it's just, it's something that you do to mitigate risk, right? You know that launching a product is going to be risky, that restructuring your brand is going to be risky, these are small steps that you can take to just reduce the probability that you really messed it up.
Now, going back to your opening statement about split testing, it is interesting. And in case you missed it, there are when we talk about split testing and your live split testing, like if we take a look at Amazon Experiment, when you use that, that's real-time data, right? So they're going out there and they're saying, well, let's test this image and this image. Let's see how this title is working against this title. But when we, and this might be the wrong word, but focus group. When I think of you or PickFu or these others that are out there, I think of more of a quick, fast focus group that I can go there. I can get a quick thought, and you could even pick, like a lot of the times when we're looking at images, there might be 4 or 5 images that you get from your photographer straight on, using a different lens, different lighting, above it, below it, and you can put it over there, get the best 2 results, pay a little bit for it, and then you can take those 2 and split test them on Amazon Experiment. They're both very useful. And some people say that one's not a split test. And I'm interested to hear what you say, because I was talking to somebody the other day, was on the podcast, and they said, well, you know what Usability Hub does or what PickFu does, it's not really split testing. What are your thoughts on that?
It's not really split testing, because at the end of the day, I would look at an A/B test as being a live test, right? Can I actually test 2 different versions of some kind of creative, and then can I track it to get a meaningful difference? At the end of the day, right, the people who are on the PickFu panel, it's exactly the same thing as a focus group. They're not the people who are actually buying your product at the end of the day, most likely. But with that being said, right, you got to think of what's the alternate, right? And for most brand owners out there, we're just going with our gut, right? We're going to our partner, to our spouse, and we're saying, hey, babe, what do you think about this logo? What do you think about this product packaging? And so just think about all these different areas of your business, right? We learn on, none of us knew how to do any of this stuff 5-10 years ago. This is all new, right? And so we learn how to do all of this, and all the experience we have, and when it comes to running our business, you got to really ask yourself, is like just going with your gut, or is asking a random person, potentially someone you know who can be very biased and won't even want to give you honest feedback, is that going to be more effective than going to 50 plus people of a target market that's very similar, maybe not the same people buying your product, but very similar to people buying your product? Is that going to be better than just going with your gut or asking random people? And it seems to make sense. Like the reason why PickFu has grown and these other tools have grown is because people do see the value in it. Going and getting different perspectives from different people. It's like we were saying earlier, a lot of us are way too close to our products to make good decisions on what the customer wants at the end of the day. So getting some objective feedback from the outside, it's not a live split test, but it's very, very helpful.
Yeah, I'd like to hear any of the listeners. I just noticed that Kelsey posted something, but has split testing changed your listing? Do you know, have you had an incredible or horrible result not split testing and you found out later? Can you give us your comments? Like, how has split testing changed your listing? Or if you're using it, let us know what it's all about. Now let's go on. I want to know about sort of the best practices for Amazon sellers to start. So where can I get the highest ROI if I'm starting to split test? Never done it before.
So I'm definitely going to recommend starting with main images. And the reason why I want to start with main images is, number one, there's a link into Amazon Manage Your Experiments, right? You can actually do a live split test on your listing with alternate versions of your main image. So that is really valuable. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But the other reason that I really like starting on main images is because the scope of what you're able to change is very limited. If you think comparing a main image to all of your secondary images in your gallery or your A+, there's an infinite number of things that you could change, right? With your images, with your A+, there's so many different elements, so many different components, versus the main image, we're really locked in, right? We're talking about one image alone, and there's already pretty restrictive terms of service in place in terms of what you're even allowed to do in the main image. So now you don't have to think of, there's a million things I could change. There's really only like maybe 5 or 10 things you could change. The orientations of the product, if you add a little item to give some context. And so in the experiments we've done and in the case studies we've done, we've consistently seen people come in, start with an original version of their main image, which is quite good, but then come up with something that's more eye-catching or gives more context as to, hey, you found the product that you're looking for. They go and test those against the original and actually see sometimes a double-digit increase when it comes to click-through rate or sessions. And that's really, really big, because if you think about it, for a lot of these changes to your main image, you usually don't even have to go and like redo the photography. It's usually just a pretty light lift from a graphic designer to go and say, hey, let's make a few different versions and run them through tests. So it's a very minimal workload, but it can give you a very high ROI, versus you can go and change your secondary images or A+, but you got to think it's going to be a lot more work, and it's going to take a lot more time to actually test it to the point where you know that what I have is actually very good.
You mentioned about starting with your primary. One of the things that we kind of play around with is the slide deck and how that looks. So it could be sort of let's say it was color. So you've got your brand colors, and maybe it's red, white, and blue, red, white, and blue. Okay, we do that because it looks nice. Aesthetically, it looks nice. So when somebody comes over to the page, we know that. Or maybe it's your primary on white background, a darker background, white background, darker background. We don't know. And we don't know what the demographic will like. So this is another way that you can use an app like PickFu and get just a quick answer. Like what slide deck do you like better? Here's just a screenshot. And you can play around with them and just reorganize everything very quickly. That might improve you by, improve the click-through rate by half a point, maybe a point. I don't know. But it's every little thing that you can do to help improve your listing is one thing that you have over your competitor.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, we've seen a lot of instances where people are testing different versions of their main image. And where we find the biggest return or the biggest gains is when, let's say someone's looking for your product, right? I give an example when I was on the cruise of like this dog hair trimmer. And so it's like you can show just the trimmer, right? And it's a pet hair trimmer to cut their hair, but the primary purpose is a dog, right? And so when people are looking through the first page of search results, if they see a dog and they're like, I've got a dog, I'm going to use this to cut my dog's hair, they're going to be a lot more inclined to say, okay, it might say dog hair trimmer in the title, but when they see the dog visually, it's going to increase your click-through rate, right? I can't tell you the product, but over the holidays, I was working on a product for Q4, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this product had a very specific purpose in cooking. But when we were getting closer and closer to Christmas, people were using this product actually for something related to Christmas that was not at all related to what is the sales during the previous parts of the year. And so when we saw this keyword starting to come up as we're getting a lot of clicks from this single keyword, what we did is we went back and we re-optimized the main image only for the Q4 to reflect that new use case. And what did we see? People were looking for this specific thing. Yeah, they were still buying it for this other purpose, but they were really looking during this narrow time frame for this. And so we created a few different versions of the main image, uploaded it, and we saw a big jump in click-through rate. And so you got to think, like, when someone gets to that first page of search results, they have the intent to buy the product. They will buy the product, and they have something very specific in their head. And so the biggest gains we've seen in terms of increasing click-through rate through main image is putting something in the main image that's going to indicate you've found what you're looking for. This is the listing that you want to click into.
One of the things that we were playing around with, lifestyle. So we'd get lifestyle photos, and we'd get a lot of them, and we'd be posting them up. And some would be doing better than others, but they typically had some all right engagement. One of the things that we did to really change things up was if we noticed that when a person did an unboxing video or was walking with somebody, but something using the product, and they smiled. It was that simple. We just noticed that engagement increased, and we learned this through split testing. So just somebody using the product, smiling, or even if the product wasn't shown, but it was still an influencer, right? And we had it on posts, or we had it in our social media, just by changing it over to somebody smiling and using the product. it made a difference. So these are little things that you would never know would work unless you split test. I mean, you could look through reports and everything like that, but this is an easy look. Uh, Now, going back to live split testing for a second, if you're using Amazon's version, how long do you think you should typically split test?
So that's the thing. That's the thing that makes Amazon manager experiments a little bit tricky, is because if you compare it to something like PickFu is very fast. Your poll is going to be done in 30 minutes to an hour. It's really set up for kind of rapid iterations, getting through things quick, which is why if you compare that to Amazon manager experiments, it's the exact opposite. It takes very, very long. And so the minimum time frame that you can even run a manager experiments test is for 4 weeks. And they say you're going to get data after 7 days, but in my experience, you're really not going to get any data until 2 weeks in, right? And so these tests take a long time to run, which is why you want to do some validation in advance, right? Because for those first 2 weeks, you're actually probably not going to even know, is this new main image better or is it worse, right? It could go in either direction. And so because the time frame is so long, you really want to make sure that whatever you're putting, whatever you're uploading, you know deep down that this is probably going to be better than what I have.
If we take a look at the two, let's talk about the mistakes sellers make. So let's start off with something that is instantaneous, a focus group. What do people make using an app?
I'm sorry, like what mistakes do they use when they're like using PickFu?
Yeah, PickFu
so
or any of the others.
I think the biggest one that I always say, and then I'll want to give one more after this, but the biggest one is just not starting, right? I remember actually when I ran my agency, I started using PickFu, and I had it in my head. My business partner had explained to me what PickFu was, and I knew what PickFu was. And I had a project that I was going to work on, and I was just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because I was like, I've never done market research before. I think it's going to be hard to set up. And then after I ran my first poll, I was like, wait, is that it? Really? Like it took 5 minutes to set up. You start getting responses. I didn't realize how easy it was. And so the biggest encouragement I would give, or the biggest mistake rather, is people just don't get started. They're like, I don't touch the creative stuff. I don't know how this works, and I'm not going to get involved with it. And I think that's a really, really big mistake. Aside from that, like when it comes down to running a split test through something like PickFu, a big mistake that people make is they're not, I think it was Mike Jackness said that he's like, PickFu is like a fortune teller, right? It's going to tell you what's going to happen before it happens. And that's partially true, but it's also like a fortune teller that if you go to a fortune teller and you ask the wrong question or you ask a bad question, maybe you get a curse, right? Like maybe it doesn't work out how you think it would. And so that's really important, right? If you're some very beginner users of PickFu will go in and they'll just say, hey, what image do you prefer? Which packaging do you prefer? But you really want to be a lot more targeted, right? You got to understand these people, they answer a lot of these polls, but this is the first time that they're seeing your product. And so you really got to put some thought into the question in terms of what do you actually, what feedback are you looking to get out of? So instead of just saying, which product packaging do you prefer, right? We're optimizing this packaging for a main image on Amazon. So what we really want it to do is be eye-catching. And then we want to give some context as to like, what's this packaging even for? So instead of just saying, which packaging do you prefer? You'd say, hey, which packaging is most eye-catching and would encourage you to click? By the way, this is a product for, a silicone spatula or meat shredders, whatever it is. And so now it's very clear what I'm asking them. And then it's also clear that I'm giving some context, right? And that's going to give me a lot better quality of responses. If we're talking about your lifestyle images earlier and you guys had this aha moment that, okay, we wanted to show someone smiling and they're in the kitchen using their spatulas and they're really happy. And so maybe for that lifestyle image, we're going for like it's like this home cooking family environment where everyone looks happy. So I'm not just going to say, which lifestyle image do you prefer? I'm going to say, in which of these lifestyle images does the family look like they're having the best time? By the way, this is for a kitchen spatula. And so now it's not just like which one looks better. I'm looking for a very specific purpose, and I'm trying to really dial into that purpose so that the final lifestyle image that we have, someone looks at it and they feel it. They're like, I want to be cooking in my kitchen with my kids and I've got the spatulas and everyone's happy. Like that's the feeling that you're going for. And so if you can give some context and be a little bit more targeted in the question, you're going to get a lot better feedback.
Great advice. Really good advice. Okay. So before we get to the next question, we have a giveaway. You want to get into that?
Yeah, sure. So for, I guess for someone on this show today, someone who's watching, we're going to give away $100 in PickFu credits. And then if you're not a winner, anyone who hasn't run a PickFu poll can also get 50% off their first poll. But someone here is going to go home with $100 in credits, which is good for, a couple of tests.
All right, that's fantastic. So if you like that, hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, tag 2 people and you'll get a second entry. We're going to sweeten the pot up a little bit with our Centurion League. So if you like to come on for a month free, it's $199 value. It'll be part and parcel of Anthony's gift. So check it out. And by the way, Rad, who I see is listening right now, was on a call yesterday. I believe it was his first time. And Rad, if you want to post your thoughts on how you like the Centurion League, just let us know. And by the way, I got to give a shout out to my buddy in crime, Tim Jordan. I know he's kind of down and out right now. He feels awful. He's got a bit of the flu. So if any of you know Tim, just give him a quick shout out and wish him all the best. Okay. So Kels, you got your finger on the trigger? Do you, Kelsey?
I do. I'm ready when you are.
Smash it.
All right, here we go.
As you know, at Lunch with Norm, bigger is always better. Bigger business, bigger profits, and yes, bigger lunches. Z wants to make sure that your business and profits are bigger by taking you and your business international. They are a one-stop importer of record shop, including compliance and logistics services. They focus on all the elements involved in a smooth first-time custom clearance so that you can focus on what you're good at, selling. Click on the screen now or follow the link in the description box below and get 50% off your first shipment today. Okay, there we go.
Okay, I also just want to add too, for the Mexico trip coming up, there is a special coupon code for if you're interested in coming. This is only available for the end of this week too, so it's going to go away. It's for $500 off for either the Mexico sourcing trip or the Mexico sourcing trip and the mastermind together. So I put the link over. It's the code is Mexico VIP. And if you're interested in coming to the Mexico trip, you can use that code to get $500 off. So
yep. So you can either go to the whole thing, go to one, or go to the other. Okay. So getting back to this, Anthony, let's just, I want to take a step back and just talk a little bit more about potential on Amazon's manage your experiments. Hey, have you found or do you use it, and is it worth it?
Well, the thing is, I think it definitely can be worth it. It's very clear to me from selling on Amazon, for a number of years now, that Amazon really hasn't built out their platform with a lot of thought or regard for the sellers, right? They're very clearly focused on building the customer experience. And so I think they put out these tools and they're somewhat helpful, but it really comes down to the individual seller to make them work, right? Because Amazon doesn't give you much, right? Like they could really put in a lot of work to give you a lot more functionality and even just data insights on manage your experiments. Here's what I'll tell you is like, when I had my agency before we sold it, this would have been like, almost 3 years ago. Manage your experiments has been around for a while, and it started off with just being able to test A+ content. And then later they added the ability to test titles and then the ability to test main images. Over like the past 3 years, I have been going to literally everyone, every agency owner, and I know all of them, every seller, every mastermind. And I'm like, who is actually using Manage Your Experiments? And I promise you, like very, very few sellers, if any, are using them. And the reason why is because it just takes very long to get results. And at the end of the day, you just don't know if what you're putting on, right? You're putting on a new main image. You're going to wait a couple weeks. And I've had experiences where it actually takes you in the wrong direction. With that being said, though, I think the sellers who are doing it well, and I do know a handful of sellers that have had good experience with it, and I've had good experience with it as well. You have to go in it with the mindset that, okay, this is going to take really long, but every time that I run one of these experiments, right, it takes time. There's no way to speed it up. But when I get to the end of that experiment, if I saw gains, now I can just go back and I can see what did I learn from that and how can I try to do that again and again and again. And so I think what scares a lot of sellers off is they're like, okay, there's a possibility that my brand is going to go up or it's going to go down. And then if it ever goes down, they're like, okay, well, it went down. I don't want to touch this anymore. This was a bad move. And what you have to really think of it, though, is that being wrong is just at a single point in time, right? And so for me, I've got it passed in my head that, okay, if we go down in one experiment, that's not the end of the world, right? I know that that was the wrong move, right? You can always revert back to the original image. But when you get those upside, the upside, it tends to stay. It tends to stick with the brand. And so it's really about, okay, can I be right more than I'm wrong? And over time, can I make those gains? And I think the real potential for Amazon managed experiments are the sellers that are going in on a regular basis across an entire product line. They're running a lot of tests simultaneously, and they know that some are going to be good, some are going to be bad, but in the overall, they're going to be able to month after month after month, just 1%, 1%, 2%, whatever it might be. And then the really cool thing about that is like you've spent the time to actually do all of that testing, and you might have been testing for 6 months or a year. And that's not something that your competitor can just go in and just do, right? Like it takes time to let these tests run, and there's no way to speed that up. So I think there's a lot of potential in terms of Amazon manager experiments. I wish they gave you a little bit more. The real potential though is like, and I work with a lot of clients, and in the past I've worked with a lot of clients as well, that we're doing changes to the listing and we're updating the image gallery, we're updating the A+, we're changing the video. And then you see these gains that you get, right? And you're like, hey, my unit session went up, right? My click-through rate went up. But then at the end of the day, how do you know what you were actually doing? What affected it, right? You're always doing all of these things on your listing. And so it's very hard to isolate, is this the thing that actually made it go up? I was working over Q4 with Bradley on a project for Project X. We're playing around with some images in the gallery for his coffin shelf. And so we're there in Q4, we make some changes to the main image, to the secondary image gallery, and we saw double-digit increases. Like it's like a 20% increase in the click-through rate. But it's also during Q4, right? We saw an increase in our unit session percentage, but it's also doing Q4. And so like I've seen some really big gains, and you got to think like some of it's from the image gallery, but is it also just because there's increased traffic because people are buying more products? And so what I like the most, for me, I'm a very data-driven guy. What I like the most is even if I'm waiting longer, I'll know for certain that this main image gave me these kind of gains. And what's actually really cool about how Amazon displays the data is they're not just showing you which one won, they're actually giving you confidence intervals for like, here's your good, better, and best scenario of how you can actually see, and they'll give you a dollar amount of what that increase is going to mean for your brand in terms of more sales, in terms of more product buys. And so for me, it's like, I even if it takes longer, I really want to see that, because now I know, hey, this new main image gave us an extra, $15,000 of sales in the next 6 months, right? Or like that's the estimated amount. So I'm a really data-driven guy. I think that's important. A lot of sellers, they're not willing to wait for that. I think it's maybe a little bit of a mistake, but Amazon doesn't make it easy to make that decision, right? They can make it a lot smoother.
You were talking about the information that you get, and you can see whether it's good, bad, or ugly. One of the tips that we have, so our team, if we make any change to a listing, so whether it's a split test or not, but if we make a change to a listing, we use Helium 10. Helium 10's got this thing called notes, right? Yep. And you can just put it in there. If you don't have Helium 10, you could do this on a spreadsheet. But anytime you change anything, the smallest thing you do is you add it to your notes. And if you see over a period of a week or two that things start to go sideways or go down or go up, you know the reason why. So, I mean, the worst thing, don't change everything at once, right? That's the absolute worst thing that you could do is, you don't know why things went good, bad, or ugly because everything has changed. But when you're making these minor changes, and let's say you are using PickFu and you've got the information and you're saying, okay, this image was 60% better. People like it. Let's use it, see if it works. And then maybe you move on to your title or your bullets or your search terms. Anyways, or, fooling around with your PPC, just kind of getting outside of split testing. But this is all very important.
And if I could just add in one other thing, this is actually a key difference between live split testing and using PickFu, is that in live split testing, you're going to get to the end of the experiment and you're going to see what the result was. It either went up or it went down, and it went up, by some amount. but you're never going to really understand why that happened, right? You're just going to see the data. And so actually a real big advantage for doing split testing with PickFu is people aren't just voting, hey, I like option A over option B, and it got 60% of the votes. Everyone is actually required to give you detailed feedback, right? They write out a couple sentences about why they chose that. And so the real reason that's an advantage is because now you're able to get some basis of like, okay, this image is better, but now I know why it's better. And so getting back to that dog hair trimmer example earlier, right? I walked through this on the cruise. We found out that people wanted to see a dog in the main image. Okay, that's fine. But then we started testing different dogs and we started to understand, okay, they wanted to see a dog, but then there were some specific attributes. They wanted to see a dog that was big, that was fluffy, right? There's all these different characteristics. And so we could, when we started to understand why that specific dog won, then we were able to use that to say, well, let's go find dogs that are bigger, that are fluffier, that are cuter, that look happy and meet those criteria because we read that in the feedback. Versus if you're just testing something on Amazon, you'll know which one won, but you won't know why it won. And the why is really helpful for guiding that creative iteration in the future.
All of a sudden, my Siri and my Alexa started going off. I don't know what they picked up. Off. Anyway, so if you hear anything in the background, it's them. And by the way, Simon, yeah, I can't give you free airfare and the VIP and all that, but I will give you a free ticket from the UK as long as you travel in pet cargo. It's on me. So just keep that in mind. All right. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, so we started talking about little tips that we do. Do you have any other cool tips or tricks that you can use?
Well, one of the coolest tests, let me see if I can actually pull it up here real quick, because I think it's actually worth showing. This is something that a lot of people don't know in terms of a test that you can run using PickFu, but it's very valuable, and it gets to what you were talking about earlier with the slideshow. And so this is called a click test. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Do I have a minute to share this, Norm?
Absolutely. I'm just laughing at Simon's comment.
It's a good deal.
There we go. And Kelsey, while we're waiting, can you do the Jeopardy song?
There, how about I just remind everyone, we do have a fantastic giveaway from Anthony and PickFu. So if you enter hashtag Wheel of Kelsey in the comment sections, you'll be entered to win $100 of credit for PickFu that you can redeem. And Anthony, how do people actually get the 50% off for the PickFu?
We've got a code. I believe it's Lunch with Norm. I believe that's what the code is. I'll have to double check it. I'm pretty sure it's Lunch with Norm. And then anyone who's a first-time user will get 50% off their first poll. So
very good.
Good way to start.
Okay.
And that'll be
Perfect.
also posted in our resource area too, Kels, right? On the page, on our webpage.
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, I just got it pulled up here.
Perfect.
Let's see. I run a lot of polls, so it's a lot to scroll through. Let's see.
Okay, and I also just want to shout out Faye. She had some comments about split testing. She said, I did a split test for a main image with PickFu yesterday. I was shocked by the results, thought the losing image was the better one, but was proven wrong. There's been a couple comments like that going through. I think it was Marsha who just said she's just looking at starting a PickFu campaign today. So this was perfect for her. So yeah, hopefully this helps everyone, and make sure you get your questions in because we'll be answering them shortly too.
Okay, so let me know if you can see my screen, Norm. Is it showing up?
I can share it now. There you go.
Yep.
Are you seeing a PickFu test?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is really cool, and pretty much nobody knows about this, but people have been using this for a while, and this is actually this is what we call a click test. And so basically what I've done is I've downloaded, this is for a meat shredder, right? Pretty common product. I just pulled a random one. It's not a client product or anything like that. And so basically what I did is I downloaded the image gallery here. So, and I put them, I just downloaded the images, put them into a Google Slides, and I labeled them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And so this is just one solid image here. And what I did is I asked the question, I said, which 2 images in this gallery would be most effective in convincing you to purchase these meat claws? And then I give some context. This product is used to shred cooked meat while cooking, right? Because, it might not be apparent what that's for. And so the reason I picked 2 clicks is because I didn't want people to just identify their first choice. I wanted them to identify their first and second choice. And so now what I can do is if I come down here to the click test, I can come down here and see, okay, image 1 got 19 clicks. Here, image 2 got 59 clicks. Image 3 got 41 clicks. Image 4 got 68 clicks. And then down here, I didn't highlight that right, but image 5 gets 12 clicks. And so what I can do now is I can very quick, and you can see that this test, it took 36 minutes to run this test. Now I have a very clear idea, right? That, okay, if this got 68 clicks, right, this would ideally be image 1, image 2, image 3, and then potentially image 4 or image 5, right? So now you have an idea of how you would actually order the images in this gallery. But what I actually like to do even more is I know that one of these should be my first 3 images, right? Because if you think everyone's going to see your main image, some portion of people are going to see image 2, 3, 4, and it's going to go down, right? Because not everyone is going to make it all the way through. So it would make sense that you would want to prioritize the most important information up front. The flip side of that equation is now I can look at these 2 low performing images and I can ask myself, okay, I have a limited amount of space in my gallery. And so if only like 12 people are saying that this easy to clean dishwasher safe graphic is effective in convincing them to buy the product, maybe people just assume, right? As sellers, we're always trying to say, hey, this is dishwasher safe. But maybe people just look at this and they either don't care about putting it in the dishwasher or they assume that it is part of the dishwasher, that you can put it in the dishwasher. Same thing with this upgraded solid handle, right? Like I come here and this is getting a very low share of clicks relative to the other images. And so what I'm either going to do is I'm going to say, same thing with the dishwasher safe. Like, could I replace this with another concept that people are going to be more interested to know about the product? Or is there actually something about this image? We're talking about the solid handle, right? This is like some kind of features of the product. Could I actually go and redesign this image, right, to be better, to be more intuitive? And then if I would go and maybe replace this image, redesign this to make it a little bit more simple, could I get a more even distribution among the clicks? And then the same thing as always, like you can always scroll down and then you can see, people are still giving you the feedback on this type of test. So I can come down here and, okay, this person, their first choice was image number 4, their second choice was image number 2, and then I can read the justification for why they chose that. So it's a really quick thing you can do. Let me stop sharing my screen. A really quick and easy thing to do, and a good way to determine something like image order.
That's really cool. I didn't know that. Got to try it out.
Yeah, fun little tip.
Yeah. So just before we get into the last question, it's just any other tips or tricks that you have for split testing?
What I recommend is respect the process, right? Like a lot of the times when I'm doing creative optimization work, I'm blown away with how bad the first set of deliverables looks. Like it sometimes looks really, really bad. And so the thing you got to do is the magic. I said this from the beginning, is like the magic happens in revisions, right? And so just respect the process. The other thing that's really important, and this is a nuance that I've really learned over the past couple of years, is when I'm optimizing visuals and I'm thinking about different things to test, there's 2 components. There's information flow, and then there's visual aesthetics, like just how good something looks. What you really need to understand about Amazon specifically is that people already, in the vast majority of the time, they know what they want to buy, right? And so you really just have to confirm what they're already looking for. And so if you have information flow, which is just like, what is this product? What does it do? There's a checklist of things that people need to know. You got to focus on information flow first, right? Like what is conveyed by this image? What gets into the customer's brain? And then making it look good is secondary. I think a lot of people go in and they try to create images that just look really, really amazing. And we can go around on Amazon and we can see very many listings of top selling competitors that don't look that good. And the reason why is because their images tend to be very, very good at conveying the necessary information, even if it doesn't look pretty. So when you're going through, I'm working on a case study with Mina. He was like, hey, I just don't know. I'm trying to redesign this packaging. And he's very clearly trying to design the packaging just based on design. And I said, don't start with design. Start with what needs to be on the packaging. If this is a supplement product, what do people need to see? What's going to click in their brain to say this is the right thing? Get down that flow of information first, right? The elements on the packaging that are like, this is what the product is, this is what it does. And once you've got that information flow down, only then should you focus on making it look good. And it's a really important nuance.
Okay, great. Okay, you're coming to Mexico?
I will be there. I'm really excited.
All right. So PickFu is going to be coming down to Mexico. I just want to kind of squeeze this in because Mexico is about a month away. Man, it's flying by.
Coming by
But
soon. Right?
you're going to be there. You're going to be. Are you speaking there?
I'm speaking at the mastermind, and I'm flying in a couple days early to Mexico City because I really want to check out that sourcing scene. I think it's going to be really cool.
Okay, cool. So if you do want to see Anthony, I know I've seen him speak a few times. Anyways, it'll be well worth it to check him out. Okay, we have a bunch of questions. We got a lot of questions.
Heck yeah.
We do, yeah. So we'll jump right into that. Oh, we just got another couple questions rolling in too. So, all right, from Simon, is it okay to A/B/C test? Say use top 2 competitor main images and your main image.
Super smart to do that. In fact, like one of the cool things with PickFu is you're not limited to just 2 options. You can actually test up to 8 options simultaneously. And so what a lot of people are doing before they even start on the creative optimization of their own main image, and I broke this down. You can come to our webinar series called Teardown Thursday. The first step that I did before we even started optimizing our main image is I just pulled the top, I think it wasn't 8, but I think I pulled the top 6 organic positions, and I just downloaded their images, uploaded them into PickFu and said, hey, which image do you prefer for this dog hair trimmer? And so before even touching optimizing my own image, I figured out what was working in the competitors, what was not working, and how could I take that feedback to start off with, okay, now I'm going to take all this information and try to make something better. So uploading multiple options is a really good idea. Yeah, you can definitely ABC test, DE test as well.
All right,
Okay.
next.
Great. This one is from Marcia. Newbie here. How can I use PickFu to help us determine the best retail price point?
So this one's a little bit tricky, and a lot of people do use PickFu to try to test pricing. The thing you got to realize is out of all the applications for PickFu, I think this is one of the least relevant applications, because the real reason why is because you can go on to PickFu and say, hey, how much would you pay for this product? But at the end of the day, you're going to be limited as a seller in terms of how much you can sell it at the top or at the bottom, just based on your own logistics. And so what I think is a much more valuable question than just saying in an abstract world, like, how much would you pay for this product? I would try to think of it more in terms of a development standpoint. So it's like, okay, here's a current product that's selling for this, but if we added this bonus item in, how much more would you pay for this product? Or if this product had this feature, would it be more valuable? And using that to try to develop the product. Because if you're just going in and, you know, there's a very realistic limit in terms of the pricing, right? And as well, there's really good tools that you can use for dynamic pricing on Amazon, right? And so it's like, I would just try to figure out, like, you know, what's your price point that you can sell in? And there's going to be a very little wiggle room, right, for that. I don't think PickFu is the best tool for doing that. Some people do, but again, I don't think that's the best way to use it.
Right.
Okay, from Claudia, how do I test what color my product should be before I have mass production done? I don't have samples of all the colors because samples were to only check quality in photos. Obviously haven't been done yet. What do you suggest, please, Anthony?
Yeah, this is, you know, and we're talking about the sourcing trip that's coming up in Mexico. Like, this is probably one of the best ways that you can use PickFu, right? You've gone and sourced the product. You know you want to sell the spatula. You've done your product research, and the silicone spatula is good. But should it be green? Should it be purple, pink? Should the handle be different? Should it have a string? All of these different things. And so using PickFu early on, right, to actually determine the design of your product and get it right from the beginning is super, super smart. Now, if you're in a position where you don't actually have the photos that you can, you know, the manufacturer is just, you know, sending you photos of one specific color variation. One thing that you can do is, you know, it's probably a little bit more expensive, but you can go and get renders made. What I recommend, though, is if it's just for the purpose of a split test using PickFu, just go get a graphic designer and do your best to try to get the color patterns to match. Or what you can either do is, like, you can just show the spatula and then just put a little design of, like, this is what the color would look like, or this is what the pattern would look like. And then, so in the question, again, the panel, they know that this can often be hypothetical. So you just have to reference that in your question. Like, I'm planning on selling this spatula. Which color do you think is the best? By the way, and you can put in parentheses, like, you know, this is a photoshopped image, or this isn't true to life. they're going to give you that context regardless. So if you don't actually, first off, if you can, ask the manufacturer for different photos, right? If they can just send them over to you, maybe they'll be able to do that, even if it's not the product you're buying. But then the second option is just get something that's close. One of the other things that people are doing, like just to kind of help sell this point a little bit as well, is back in the day, like people would just test their logo on PickFu, and they just say, hey, which logo do you prefer? But one of the things we've been seeing people do is they'll put the logo over like it's kind of like a shaded stock image. I was working with Adam Runquist, and he's selling a golf product. And so he was coming up with different versions of the logo. And so he put the logo overlaid on like a thing of people playing golf, just to give context of like, this is a golf brand. And so it doesn't necessarily need to be like real. You're just trying to give more context. So same thing with the product, right? It doesn't need to look perfect, but you can just put in there that, hey, this is just like a Photoshop or a rendering, right? The people understand what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I do exactly that. Yeah, with just taking a picture, let's say it's a spatula, and just getting a graphic artist to change the colors up. It's very inexpensive and very quick to do.
Don't overthink it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, our next question is from Manny. Since you made a lot of testing, I believe you saw a testing of an image with a banner and no banners, just the image. What was your experience with text on the main image? I guess just in general.
I mean, generally, you want to try to keep text out of your main image from a terms of service standpoint. Now, there's some really clever ways to get around that, right? Like if you show your product packaging and your product packaging has nice big bold letters that says like, here's what the product is, then you can a lot of the times get away with that. The thing is with the Amazon terms of service for main image, like they just don't, the version of the terms of service that I've seen most prevalent is that they don't want anything in the main image that's gratuitous or distracting. Right. And so if you're putting text in the main image, and if it's like bonus item included, or it's clickbaity or something like that, stay away. Try to put things in your main image that are going to legitimately help the customer identify that they found the product and it's going to be a good shopping experience for them. So in terms of text in the main image, I'd probably try to steer away from it. I won't say much more than that because I know there's some tricky things.
Logos, borders. Yeah. Don't do it.
Okay. Let's see. From Jessica Rabbit, what has been your most surprising results in your split testing polls? Why? In general, what should sellers avoid in their listing that most find counterintuitive and would not think of?
There's so many examples out there just because I'm so consistent, and I go in trying to be wrong, right? Like I go in understanding that I have no idea. And so some of the things I'm just like, there's so many different examples of just like, I thought for sure this was the way to do it, and then something else comes out. But I think actually it's more about the surprising results, not that necessarily that you were wrong, but it's more of the understanding why, right? And so it's like you get these aha moments of like, oh, people want to see that. And like I had a very different intention in my mind for what they want to see. And then, when it's like this aha moment of like, I never even thought about that. And that might not be like 50 responses that come back of people all saying that. It's usually like the 2 or 3 responses, and you see it a couple times and you're like, oh my goodness, it totally changed my perspective. And so I think that's what you're really going into to look for. In terms of like what sellers, what should sellers avoid in their listings that most find counterintuitive? Again, it's getting back to that point earlier that I said about like aesthetics and information flow. And I think the really counterintuitive point is that what looks better often doesn't perform. It sometimes performs better, but it definitely doesn't always perform better. And I have many examples of this happening. We were a really good example of this is in the case study that we did with the dog hair trimmer. It's a multi-pack item with a lot of different product inclusions. And so the original graphic that they had was literally just a list of like, here's a list of like the nail clippers and extra items that are included. And then we created one that looked so much better. It was like, it showed all of the products, right? And it looked way better, but it didn't have a list, and ours lost, right? The other one beat it like 70% to 30%. And the real thing that was counterintuitive is this looked much better, but what people really wanted to see is they wanted to see a list. They're used to seeing lists. They're used to reading lists. And so what we were able to do is we were able to take that feedback and say, let's combine the really good looking image, but we got to have a list in there, even if it's small. And when we made that change, then the new better looking image that included the list outperformed the original by a lot. And so these are the kind of things, right? Like it's not always what looks better. It has much more to do with information flow.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Wow, still lots of questions. What should we do with none of the above responses to our PickFu surveys? Do you recommend we add a fill in the blank option for their idea?
Yeah, this is another common question. I don't recommend that only because the panel knows they're going to let you know, right? And you'll see it a lot of the times in responses. If you put up a few options and all of them are garbage, they'll just be like, I don't like any of these options. And you'll see that frequently. And the panel, they go through some training when they get onboarded of like, okay, these are real businesses. You need to give thoughtful responses. And so some people do add in the none of the above, but we really find that that's not necessary because people are going to let you know. If you want to do it, you can, but it's not really recommended.
Okay, let me see. Next one from Manny. Did you have a client where he changed a picture and had issues afterwards with the A9? Sharon told me one time she had a client that changed his main image and then we had issues.
So I'm guessing maybe in terms of image suppressions, like they try a new main image and then the image gets suppressed. Like this happens all the time, especially if you're trying to push the lines, right? Like if you're trying to add in you're trying to add in the dog, different things like that. There's certain things like, but based on what I can tell is in the main image, these aren't people going through and flagging main image violations. It's a bot, and what it's doing is it's looking for identifying white space and it's looking for identifying gaps, right? If there's white space in text rather. And so basically the tip that I can give you to like work synergistically with the algorithm is if you are adding on like a little bonus item, like you're showing the dog, try to connect it to the product so that the bot doesn't identify the white space as well. Just try not to have any text in your main image. But like at the end of the day, the reason that I feel comfortable pushing the lines a little bit in terms of main image is because the worst thing that's going to happen is the image is going to get suppressed, right? And then they're going to make you put up another one. It's not like a performance notification. You're not going to get suspended. At least I've never heard any examples of that ever happening. And so, it's just one of those things. It can happen. But I also think in the long term, Amazon's probably going to crack down. One other quick tip that I want to give you, though, is the difference of when you're running tests or manager experiments is those tests are actually approved by a real person, and you actually have to put in a hypothesis. And so that hypothesis is actually a really cool opportunity. This is coming from my Amazon background. The people who are approving these tests, they're just going through an SOP, right, in terms of like what gets approved and what doesn't. And so if when I'm writing my hypothesis, if I know I'm doing something that's a little bit on the gray area, I'm going to try to work in my hypothesis language that's going to indicate that I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for the customer. So I'm saying, hey, I'm testing a different version of my main image and it shows a dog. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I think this is going to give a better indication of what the product is. It's going to be a better shopping experience for the customer, and we want to show the dog. And so I think that has a much higher likelihood of being approved because the person at Amazon is reading their SOP and they're like, customer experience. Oh yeah, this looks good. Let's let this go live. And so always, if you're trying to do things from the standpoint of like what's going to be best for the customer, you have a little bit more wiggle room there. And I think you're going to be less wrong, right? You're going to have less issues with Amazon.
Okay.
All right, and we have two more quick questions. I think these will be pretty straightforward. From Jeff, how many reactions do you get for $50 purchased?
So everything is just $1 per response. So the minimum poll size is 50. And then so you'll get 50 responses. As you add on the audience targeting, it increases the price like by a few cents, depending on what you add on. So the base price is 50. Normally people are spending like $65 to $70 if they're adding on like Amazon Prime shoppers and dog owners, for example.
Okay, and our last question is from Marcia. We want to test the most popular graphic images. Did you say how many images we can test for top to bottom ranking?
In the click test, that would just be one test, the one that I showed earlier. Normally, if I'm putting a lot of work into designing an infographic, I might run somewhere like 1 to 3 tests just to try to get a better infographic for an image graphic. Hope that helps.
Okay, I think that's it for questions. So.
There we go.
Heck yeah.
Perfect. We got through it.
Good.
All right. So again, thank you, Anthony. And if people want to get a hold of you or get a hold of PickFu, how do they do that?
They can just reach out, Anthony@PickFu.com. We also have a really awesome customer success team, people all over the world. We speak all of these different languages. We speak Chinese, we speak Hebrew, I think it's like 7 or 8 languages we service. So people can sign up there and actually book a strategy call if you go to the contact page on PickFu or just info@PickFu. because a lot of this is new. So if you've never done it before, it's really helpful to just have someone look at your listing, do a little bit of hand holding, and then once you get over that first step, it's very easy.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so before we get to the Wheel of Kelsey, and if you haven't entered the Wheel of Kelsey, hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, tag 2 people, you get an entry. But by the time we do that, let's just check our sponsor, Kelsey. A big thank you to our sponsor, Startup Club, the largest club on Clubhouse with over 790,000 members and growing. They're one of the world's largest communities supporting the startup ecosystem, from founders to those wishing to work for a startup and everything in between. You can find them at www.startup.club for blogs, recordings, and a calendar of upcoming shows, and on the Clubhouse app. Just search Startup Club for daily shows 24/7. You can also now listen to their show, the Serial Entrepreneur Club podcast, on Apple and Spotify too. Stop by to connect, learn, and grow together. Hey, just before we get to the wheel, I saw Rad threw in a question. He put it in again. I think that's an interesting question.
Okay, from Red, when we improve and modify the product, how can we split test?
Yeah, so this is a really common thing as well. I think probably one of the easiest split tests is an open-ended type test where you're just showing the product and you might just ask an open-ended question like, what would you do to improve this product, or what could make this product better? And then you'll get, a minimum of 50 people telling you about that. As well, if you have like a more functional benefit of a product and you're like, hey, I want to add on a handle to the spatula, then you can go and test something along the lines of like, you show the spatula with the handle, without the handle, and then you're going to say, hey, which one of these do you think is better? I think the open-ended style is a little bit more helpful for product development, because what you're really looking for at the end of the day is idea generation, versus if you have an idea, then you're just going to go run that down anyway. I hope that makes sense, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's get to the Wheel of Kelsey.
All right, here we go.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
All right, we've got a ton of entries today. So this is for the $100 of PickFu credit and the Centurion League if you're not already a member. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and if you are the winner, please email me, kate@lunchwithnorm.com, and the winner is...
All right, fantastic.
All right, congratulations, Bronwyn. You are today's winner. So that is kate@lunchwithnorm.com, and I'll connect you with Anthony and we can figure it all out.
All right, Anthony, we will be seeing you at Prosper. Can't wait to meet up again. And thanks for coming on. Hey, I got a virus. I didn't even think I'd be able to log in. This was great. I really appreciate you coming on and sticking with it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been super fun.
All right. We'll see you later, Anthony.
See ya.
All right, everyone. I just wanted to, thank everybody for joining us. I know this isn't quite what you're used to, but anyways, before we sign off, Kelsey, you got anything to say?
Yeah. So we've got a great guest coming up on Monday. He was actually suggested by Andy from our Patreon group. His name is Brett Burkow, and he's from FBA Excel, which is like a Google Sheets, Amazon platform. He's going to explain everything, but it's a great platform. Andy highly recommended this. Just said this tool was amazing. So he's going to come on. I reached out to him and he said, yeah, he'd love to. So check that out on Monday. It's going to be great. And yeah, let me see. Like those or smash those like buttons if you haven't already. If you're new to the podcast, we do these giveaways every single episode, so don't want to miss out. And let me see, is there anything else? Our Facebook group is Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA and eCommerce Collective. You can head over there for more information about the episode. If you just want to connect with me and Norm on there, you can ask your questions about Amazon e-commerce. It's a pretty fun space. We do a lot of questions, polls, giveaways over there. So Oh yeah, Rad also joined the Centurion League too. Rad had some really great things to say about the Centurion League. So thank you very much, Rad. That's Tim Jordan's and Norm Farrar's private mentorship group, kind of headed by Private Label Legion. So check that out. And yeah, thank you, everyone. It seems like everyone loved today's episode. So thank you, Anthony, as well. This was a great episode. And I think that's it for me.
Okay. Well, thank God. All right. So join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being part of the community, and enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend.
Entrepreneur.